I thought of something to talk about tonight, but I think I'll talk about something else, which is um, sort of where I'm at tonight. I'm feeling this sort of um, excited, blissful feeling as I anticipate the birth of a grandchild. And so uh, I'll share that with you. It's she's in labor now, so um, nothing imminent. I don't expect to like get a call in the middle of the class, but it's hard to ignore. And it just reminded me of, just some of what it is to be human. When I got the text, I just sort of felt my heart just burst right open and rush out to Seattle and be with them. Uh, so there's, first of all, just noticing that possibility of not being separate from others in your heart, and the way that distance doesn't matter. I mean, it matters. Obviously, we kind of like to be there, but we're not. But I feel like on some level we are. And, on some level, I know that they know we're with them. And so very much with that experience, it's of how the boundaries that we think we have with people, how they can meld and disappear when you teach loving kindness meditation. You're invited to feel goodwill toward yourself or other beings, and to feel towards yourself or feel towards them as a mother does toward her only child. So sometimes, having had children, I'm a little blown away by that, because it's like, oh, that feeling toward everyone. Wow. It's a little hard to imagine feeling that way towards everyone. I'm not sure I'd pay the college tuition for anyone. There's something about having your own child that draws this out of you. But, the spiritual invitation is there to extend the boundaries, to realize the preciousness of each being, and not just human being. Everything that has breath, everything that has consciousness is so precious and wondrous. So there's an invitation there to feel that, and to soften to the world that way. Anybody anybody can know this feeling. You don't even need to have been a parent to know this feeling of just such goodwill toward another being. It could be your cat or dog. It could be a niece or nephew. It could even be yourself, believe it or not. And so I'm just kind of open to and blown away um, by this feeling of um, love and connection today. So I thought it would be worth sharing it with you. Um, and I know that you can share the excitement, and you can share the joy, and a little bit of, just intrepidation. These things don't always go well. Um, part of the, part of the flip side of being human is that people are vulnerable. Things happen, and life and death happens, and we're not in charge of that. And so as we sort of open ourselves to love, we potentially open ourselves to loss and to fear. And yet it's still worth it. It's still worth it. And I do believe, and I may even have touched it, a love that's so big that it's beyond loss. But for most of the time, as a human being on this planet, there's, for the people that I care about, there's always this possibility that they may suffer. And that seems to be what we sign up for in this life, is either we're suffering or around people who are suffering. And yet there's this medicine of connection, of heart connection in any circumstance. So I'm with that too. And we've talked a bit about that, just kind of softening to the human, softening to what it is to be human. And so, today I'm kind of in my imagination, kind of imagining what it's like to be my son, to be my daughter-in-law, to anticipate this child. I don't know that I can quite imagine what it's like to be squeezed through the birth canal, to tell you the truth. Maybe on some level of my being, I remember that, but I don't. It's kind of unimaginable when I think about it, when I hear about it. But that's an experience too. That's what she's experiencing. Her whole world contracting around her and squeezing her. So, wow. And we all live through that, or we wouldn't be here. We all come in this way. I remember, with the birth of my two children, the way that time stopped. It's like a different kind of time. The Greeks have two words for time. They have chronos and kairos. And chronos is just clock time. It's just the passage of time. Kairos is really the kind of time when you're so present that things like grow in significance and depth of meaning. And one could even say the sacred. There's the element of the sacred. So I remember that feeling of being at my children's birth and having that time be a different kind of time. And I have not had the fortune of being with someone dying, but I suspect it's very much the same thing. As someone reaches their last moments, they take their last breaths, that suddenly we're in a different kind of time. We're in a different kind of space and time. And, you kind of feel you're at the gates of life, the gates of life, the coming ins, the going outs. And it's quite awesome. It's quite humbling and unimaginable. So I feel like that's really worth sharing with you, even though it's really in a certain way in my imagination. I've entered into a bit of that kairos right now, a bit of that that time, which is set apart in some way, special in some way. Certainly not as intensive as they're experiencing. So I'm also feeling the immense mystery of time passing itself. Like what happened? There was this baby who was born, and now he's 33 years old, and he's having his own child. How does that happen? And, I know that we lived through all that time, but there's just moments where it feels so unreal, so short, that distance of 33 years. boy, at certain times it felt long. I have to say, when we had young children, I thought it would never end. Uh, but yeah, just the passage of time, and I'm now this guy who's, you know, has a lot of gray in his beard and it's getting gray in his hair and getting creaky. And that was once kind of me looking at my parents getting creaky, getting gray. And there's a way that when you're young, it's hard to take in that you'll ever be there. Really, it's hard to take that in. And then you're there. And when you have a small child you're taking care of, it's hard to believe you'll ever be there where they'll be having a child. And yet you're there, before you know it, you're there. And these are just a couple of the markers of life. Again, you don't have to have a child to be having these experiences of what it is to age, what it is for time to pass. In some ways, we're here such a short time, such a short time. And so there's moments like this when I feel like recommitting, reconfirming the intention to live it fully, moment to moment, to really be here, moment to moment, and live it, because it goes by so fast. And there's so much of it, unfortunately, that we may pass through numb, shut down, either emotionally or perhaps we're just so consumed by our work, so consumed by our doing, our getting things done, our making a living, our making ends meet, that so much of the mystery isn't present to us because our minds are really elsewhere. So I'm grateful for this particular moment, whatever it's going to be, probably more than 24 hours. I hope not, for her sake, but it's going slowly. So I'm just grateful to have this marker that will say, Mark, this is it. This is life. This is your life happening. And it's amazing that it's happening at all. Don't take it for granted. And stay awake. So that's kind of where I go with this. And I'm also just grateful for my heart softening. It's not always soft, again, for the same reasons I just listed. Sometimes I'm just in the get or done mode. And, and you can live a lot of life in a fairly transactional way, getting it done. And I'm grateful for these moments where that's not really the mode. The mode is really much more about presence and feeling and love, feeling the sense of, not only like we put this pronoun around love, my love, as if it were mine, as if I owned it, as if it were, just a product of my will. It's not. I feel like in these moments, there's a way that I'm in love. Love has me. And when I'm in love, when I perceive life that way, I also have the perception that that's the truer perception. That's actually the way it always is. We're just too deluded too preoccupied, too wounded, too self-absorbed to notice it. And yet it's always there. There's always a way that we are in these bonds, these invisible bonds that are holding us in place and holding us in the universe, holding us in being. So that's a part of it too. Gosh, I didn't know I was going to say all this, but it's all been kind of in me. You're the excuse to verbalize it. You're the excuse to get it out there. And hmm. And I also just express gratitude that for those moments like now where I feel my good fortune, feel how fortunate I am. Again, it's easy for the mind to complain. It's easy for it's easy for the mind to focus on what's wrong. So, today I have felt so fortunate. Um, and And I know that there'll be another day where I'll feel unfortunate. It's Life is like that, the winds blow both ways. And yet, in my fortune today, I feel like it's the truer feeling. It's the feeling that is recognizing what's truer is that I'm very fortunate. And I recall the saying that one often gets in Buddhism that we're all fortunate to hear the Dharma. Not everybody hears the Dharma. Not everybody encounters it in their life. A teaching that can offer this perspective and this sort of path of skillfulness. So I'm grateful for that too. And of course, the great privilege of being able to um, offer it to you. So I think I'm going to stop here. Uh, there may be more as we go on and I hear your comments, but I think that I've kind of talked about the current place that I'm in and stayed on the topic of softening at the same time.